Hi, welcome to my dining room garage. As you can perhaps see, the Norton Commando has joined me in the dining room, and the Triumph Trident is outside. I need to take the engine out of the Trident and then get on with building the original engine to put back in. So in the meantime, I have three issues with the Norton Commando. The first one being the ignition switch not working in position 1 of the 4 positions. I'm not going to fix that at this point. I haven't bought another switch yet, so I can't take it apart and see what modification repair is required to make it work correctly. So that's put on hold. The second issue is to do with the seat height. I have ordered a lower seat from a company that turns out is based in Vietnam, and I have tracking information, but it doesn't work. So I'm not convinced that I'm actually going to see anything there. And the other couple of things that I would like to do, one is to change the back wheel to an 18-inch, it's 19-inch at the moment, which opens up, the 18-inch wheel opens up a lot of different tyres that could be fitted on this, and they will actually drop the back end down. And the other way of dropping the back end down is using a shock absorber, and this is a Hagon shock absorber for a Norton Commando, but it is actually shorter. So the stock unit from Hagon's is 330 millimeters between the eyelets, and this one has been modified to 310, and admittedly the stroke has been reduced slightly, but it does have the 3/4 inch eyelets that will actually fit into the frame. So that is one of the things I'm going to do today, to change those over and then remeasure the seat height to see if it actually has moved down at all. And then the third thing is the issue where, with the spark plugs in, when I kick it over, there's a clicking sound once or twice during the kick, which doesn't happen when there's no spark plugs in the engine, or when the engine is running on tick over or even revving up. However, as soon as you put it in gear, that clicking appears. Now, to that end, I've taken the primary drive cover off, and because one of my viewers has actually mentioned that there is a circlip in the back of the clutch. This is an RGM clutch designed for belt drive, and if you tighten the gearbox bolt nut up to the requisite torque of 70 foot-pounds, it's been known to actually break that circlip, and the suggestion is to use 40 foot-pounds and some Loctite. So I'm going to use a camera with a remote microphone to try and capture the noise of that clicking and try to find whether it is actually in the clutch or the gearbox or the engine itself. I don't think it's in the engine itself, but it might be. And that, I think, is the main thrust once I've done the shock absorbers. So I will record that and bring you along for the investigation. the original seat height will be measured. I'm using a 2-inch setback from the front because when I sit on it there's about that much space, and I've got the bubble centered. Let's get it off the main stand. And there we go. And that is 33.5 inches. 33.5 inches, yeah. With the newly purchased seat that is lower, I'm going to now measure the seat height, still using the Hagon shocks before I fit the Hagon shocks. So take it off the main stand, of course. Let's keep that straight. So I have a spirit level, which I'm going to keep the bubble in the centre, and then I'm going to measure this seat height. To the bottom of this shaft, and that is 32 inches. The next stage of lowering the seat height of my Norton Commando is to remove the back wheel, so I can remove the bolts that I put in incorrectly. They've got the lower bolts must go in from the outside with the nuts on the inside. Not totally a problem with the right hand side, because there is this spacer, so you could probably get this off, but on the other side, the brake drum side, the bolt is actually almost up against the brake drum. So first things first, we need to actually get this side off. Spacer comes out, the wheel can then move to the right, and then detaches from the hub, which actually stays in the frame. Well, then that actually has to come out anyway, so that's why I have to take it all apart. I have disconnected the rear brake lever and have also disconnected the chain, and I've also disconnected the speedo drive. You can actually take the speedo out off the wheel with the cable still connected, but I find it easier not to. So that being said, without taking the silencer off, you actually need an open-ended type spanner to undo the through bolt. Having got the spindle out, and now remove the spacer. And we'll put that there. And the speedo drive, and then the whole of the back wheel will detach from the brake drum. Okay, so we'll now hopefully remove the brake drum. I think we're going to have to remove the wheel completely to allow the brake drum to detach. To release the wheel so that the brake hub will come out, I had to jack the back end of the bike up a bit. It's still resting on the front wheel and the main stand. They only come up a few inches just so that everything would release and the back wheel would come past the mudguard. There's some excuse or need to have one of the old style 1950s rear mudguard with a hinge, so you can hinge the back up out of the way and then take the wheel out with the bike still on the main stand. The shock absorber bolts are 9/16 top and bottom, and I'm going to do them hopefully one at a time. So that the idea doing them one at a time is to ensure the back end does not flop down too much too quickly. Some of the bottom ones. With the Icon shock absorber out, it has a space at the top. I checked to see that the bolt fits into there, and this is designed to fit into here. Getting that bolt started was a little bit of a pain. A gentle persuasion might help. There we go. So that one's in. I had a few problems, issues reinstalling the back wheel. Couldn't quite understand what was going on. It was very tight to fit in, although I couldn't see anything that was wrong. So I went back to thinking about what changes I'd made, and of course one of them was actually turn the bolts to come in from the outside rather than the inside. And while it's not a problem on the other side of the wheel, on this side the bolt was too long and was pushing against the faceplate of the bike. And the reason I realised that was that if I lift the bike up, is that the wheel wouldn't spin round. It would go round very slowly. First I thought, of course, the brake lever was actually too far extended because it wasn't connected, and that was the brake shoes were actually rubbing on the drum, but that wasn't the case. So I had to shorten this bolt by nearly 9mm, and when I refitted it, it doesn't touch this plate anymore, and the wheel now goes in properly and butts up against the alignment marks, wheel chock position. So what I can now do, of course, is remove the stand that the bike has been sitting on, and then refit the chain. In fact, I might refit the chain right now. Having removed the stand from under the engine so that the bike is now back on its wheels, you can see that the rear wheel is slightly off the ground. Of course the carpet doesn't help, and I fitted the chain and just have to fit the split links now. Okay, right. Okay. The next stage is to go around and make sure all of the nuts and bolts and everything that I've disturbed are correctly tightened up, and then measure the seat height. This is the whole point of doing all this. Yeah. With the bolts tightened, and the bike off the main stand, set it to level, and without anybody sitting on it, the seat height is 31 inches. 31 inches is definitely a gain, or loss I guess you would say, over the 33.5 inches I had with the original saddle and the original, or the Icon shock absorbers that I had in there. To make it any lower, I would need to next rebuild the rear wheel with 18-inch rim rather than 19-inch rim, and new back tyre. An 18-inch rim would be helpful. An 18-inch rim would be helpful in that it gives me a more choice on rear tyres, but it's quite an expensive thing to do, so I shall probably run the bike with the 19-inch wheel initially, and look for a second-hand back wheel that I need rebuilding, that I can have rebuilt smaller. But I can actually sit on the bike and put both feet down, and in fact this one is actually flat, the other one is just slightly, heel is slightly off the floor, sorry, and I think that will be a good job. My next job on the Norton is to try to figure out where the clicking sound comes from when I'm trying to kickstart the bike with the spark plugs in, or when it's actually in gear and I'm trying to pull, because when it's not in gear it sounds like a normal engine. The first port of call is going to be the clutch.